Hello everyone, my name is Anthony Wilson. I'm a Magic player from South Central Pennsylvania. I'm making this video as a response to a lot of my friends asking me about the changes that Wizards made to the extended format. Losing a bunch of sets and now being, time spiraling up. So I've been asked, what decks I think are going to be seen or played, what cards are going to make an impact on extended. So I've decided to talk about some of the decks that I think we're going to be seeing in extended in this video. So let's get started. One of the big ones I think we're going to see is White Weenie. Obviously this deck is always going to make an appearance in extended and standard. I keep telling everybody there's always going to be a White Weenie deck. It's just a really good deck. But having access to a larger card pool now in extended, you're going to see cards like Figure of Destiny and Step Links in the same deck. Probably two of the best one-drop white creatures in extended right now. After the rotation and it loses the time spiral block, you're probably going to see Ranger of Eos jump up to a 4 of, and see different toolboxes for that. You'll probably see a 1-of Burden and Forge Tender in the main deck to be searched for by Ranger of Eos. You'll probably see stuff like Sun Titan might even make an appearance in this deck, maybe a 1 or 2 of. Who knows? Braid the Elements is going to be a staple in this deck pretty much. When White Weenie gets there and needs to swing for the win, that'll be the way to go. Other additions you might see after the loss of Time Spiral block is maybe a Johnny Goldmane, or some of the other Planeswalkers. Maybe it'll splash red and do the Boat Brew type thing with Johnny Vengeance. But regardless of what happens, White Weenie is a deck that you're going to see in extended for a little while yet. Another deck we all knew was coming was Fairies. Looks exactly like it did in block and in standard, and now here it is again in extended. Has Ancestral Visions. Once it loses this, I believe it's going to jump up to a 4 of Thoughtseize, and who knows where it'll go from there. Maybe 2. Oh, I forget the name. But the fairy, the mind control fairy, comes in. M11's giving it access to Mana Leak, which is very powerful for this deck. I think this is one of the spells that this deck was waiting for. Fairies really needed a decent 2-mana counterspell, and I think M11 did it for it. So mana base probably still look the same, minus River of Tears, Pendlehaven. Probably won't change much in my opinion. This is pretty much the shell of the Fairies deck, and it's pretty refined. It'll look like this for a very long time. Next is one of my favorite decks. The red deck wins. So many ways to build red deck. You can go so many different directions. Here we go again. We have the Figure of Destiny, 1-drop along with Goblin Guide now. Kiln Fiend is a great addition to the extended red deck because with Kiln Fiend there is no wasted damage. If you've come across a deck like White Weenie or Elves with a lot of blockers, with Kiln Fiend in play, you don't have to be worried about incinerating one of their creatures or lightning bolting one of their creatures to get rid of it, because Kiln Fiend makes up for the damage used on the creature. Kiln Fiend and Searing Blaze is obviously in standard right now, but a very, very strong combo with each other. Right now has Ghostfire. Not sure what's going to replace Ghostfire in the sideboard here for red deck. What I see happening a lot is red deck splashes black for removal for cards like Burden and Forge Tender and Core Firewalker. So we'll probably see something like that happen in extended as well. So that's pretty much it. You'll see tons of different builds. Like I said, there's so many ways to go with this deck. Who knows? Here we have Jund. Now this is a standard Jund build with the addition of Grave Titan from M11. This is the shell of Jund. This is pretty much what it looks like. You can make minor tweaks to it, but just like Fairies, it's pretty much a done deal. So here's what it looks like in standard. Now we're going to jump into extended. Here's the extended build. With the amount of non-basic lands in extended, Anothermancer is a great addition here. Yeah, it's still in standard, but it's not as powerful as it is in standard right now as it is in extended. And the addition of Sigrid of Cutthroat, I think is a great idea. Jund is all about card advantage. A lot of 2-for-1s. Bloodbraid Elf, Bituminous Blast, Blightning, Maelstrom Pulse. These are all 2-for-1s. So, on top of all that, you have Sigrid of Cutthroat, drawing you extra cards a turn. Great addition. Tarmogoyf, obviously, any deck that can run Tarmogoyf runs Tarmogoyf. Until the rotation, lose Tarmogoyf. Here, I think you might see Putrid Leech in this deck after the rotation, after it loses Time Spiral. So, Putrid Leech is probably a good replacement for Tarmogoyf. It has access to a stronger mana base. Not all the lands come into play tapped anymore. You have the 4 Savage lands, but now you have access to the hybrid lands from Lorwyn and the Shadowmoor block, which is, I think, very good for Jund. And now it can be a turn faster because all its lands don't come into play tapped, so the turn 3 Blightning won't be a problem for it anymore. You know, the turn 2 Tarmogoyf or Putrid Leech isn't a problem anymore because all the lands aren't coming into play tapped. So I'm anxious to see what the deck looks more refined and extended, what it'll look like. Maybe stuff like this you'll see in the main deck. Who knows? Let's go on to another one of my favorites, Elf Ball. I think this is a very unique deck. You'll see this deck pop up once in a while, I think. This would be the combo deck, and extended if there was one right now. No one has come up with anything else, not that I've seen yet. I think after the rotation it doesn't lose anything but Summoner's Pact, which will probably be replaced by Guildleaf Archdruid, in my opinion. Would be a great replacement for this. Because of the amount of druids that you're running to draw cards. I mean, here's a druid, Elvish Archdruid's a druid, Heritage Druid, Llanowar Elves, and all those are druids. And Guildleaf Archdruid itself is a druid. So drawing you a lot of cards on top of Regal Force is pretty insane for this deck. Great way to keep it going. What I really like is the addition of Emrakul to this deck, easily searched out with Primal Command. It gives this deck what it was looking for, the extra turn that it needs to win. A problem this deck was having, at least in Standard, was you could drop all your elves in play and not have your win condition, or not have all your win condition in play, but then have to give up that turn, that one more opportunity for your opponent to Wrath of God or something, clear your whole board, and then you're left with nothing. So the addition of Emrakul was a great idea. It gives you the extra turn to swing back for the win. I'm anxious to see this deck more and extended. Like I said, I play this deck. I love this deck. And we'll see what happens to this one after the rotation. But I believe the Guildleaf Archdruid will be added to this deck. And instead of the black splash, we might see the white splash instead, which I like a lot better. I believe the white splash is much stronger. Here's a deck we saw a little bit of in Standard, the Dorn Rock deck. It's still a very good deck. Obviously, Splashing Green runs Tarmogoyf, but also has a lot of powerful cards that are currently in Standard right now. Knight of the Reliquary, Noble Hierarch, Ranger of Eos, Path to Exile, Maelstrom Pulse. You know, these cards are very powerful in Standard, and now making their way into Extended. So one of the few decks I've seen so far running any Planeswalkers. Elspeth's obviously one of the most powerful Planeswalkers that we've seen lately. The Treefolk Harbinger is great for this deck, allowing for a small toolbox. Searches for your Dorn the Siege Tower, or searches for Nameless Inversion, or searches for one of your Forest or Murmuring Bosks. So this deck, I don't expect to see too much of in Extended, especially after the rotation. But who knows? I could be wrong. But I just don't see this deck making much of an impact right now. I've been wrong before. Some of these decks, a lot of these decks that we've been pointing out, with the exception of Red Deck Wins, are very creature-heavy decks. Rely very heavily on their creatures. So, an idea that I had was a deck that I played back in Lorwyn block, red-black control deck, the idea of the deck was to kill all creatures in play and swing back for the win with Demigod of Revenge. Obviously can't do that anymore with the existence of Path to Exile. Kind of destroys Demigod of Revenge. It doesn't work. But planning on building something similar to this, I have a similar build in Standard right now. Red-black control, designed to keep the board clear, manipulate your opponent's hand, and win with some amazing dudes. Obviously, Fester Cube doesn't see play anymore, but cards like Murder Shredcap, Shriek Maul, cards like those probably see a lot of play. Incendiary Command, I don't think is good enough for Extended at this point. It'll come out. Here's a card a lot of people forgot about was Lash Out. So a lot of these cards, I believe, can still be played in Extended. Some kind of odd control deck, maybe adding Blightning to help deal with Jund. All the instances help you deal with fairies. The Black Splash with, you can probably add like Doomblade or Deathmark to help you deal with Burdened Forge Tender and Core Firewalkers. So, a lot of different options here. I think very, very good opportunity. There's still a lot of rogue decks that I think can make an impact as well. I hear talk of the Mass Polymorph deck, or the Blue Drazi Green deck, which is the Elf deck splashing blue for counter magic, which I think is a great idea. Also, you know, a lot of some standard decks that I think could make an impact as well. So there's a lot of different directions Extended could go right now. And I'm kind of anxious to see what happens. A lot of stuff from Shards I haven't even touched on yet. You know, you've got the Dredge deck with all the Unearthed guys. You've got the Time Sieve combo. You know, I even hear talk of the Merfolk deck in Extended. So October is probably going to be a really fun time. It's definitely going to be, with all the changes to Extended, it's going to be a great time for deck builders. Patrick Chapin said in a recent interview that, you know, there's going to be a need for deck builders. So any deck builders out there, now is your opportunity to make your impact on the game and to help define Extended. You know, show us what you got, build your best Extended decks, and give them a try. Don't be afraid of what the results might be. You know, do a lot more physical playing, go to a lot more physical tournaments, try to avoid the Magic Online, and see what happens. So I hope this has been enlightening and educational, and thank you for watching.